So last time we talked about how we got here, what led us to this point, and why we decided to take a shot at this. Today we're moving on to the part that actually makes the magic happen, the equipment. Today we're going to talk about the machine and everything that takes an idea and turns it into something where. This is where the real work starts, where the learning never stops. Let's get into it.
All right, so let's talk about day one of the machine showing up, getting unboxed, coming off a truck. Casey, Gavin, where were you when the machine first showed up on property?
So I was basically like it was the day the machine showed up was my first day here. So I rolled up with Jim. We got out of the truck. There was a big, box truck here. The fun part for me was like I walked in though because I'd never been here. I didn't even know who worked here or like who was supposed to be setting up the machine. So
Yeah.
I was just walking around introducing myself to everybody. Um, but yeah, that was. I mean, literally, I think I'd been in Jacksonville for like a week. So it was sitting around and waiting at the house, and then just showing up here, and basically it was go time. What about you, Gavin? Because I know you were up front in the store.
Yeah. Yeah, I was up front in the store. We didn't really know much about what was going on back there. I'm pretty sure all we knew was that we were just getting a machine to make shirts, and that was about all they told us. And then after a little while, we started getting a bunch of shirts that were all fucked up.
Well, yeah, that happens.
Yeah.
You'll have that. But it was definitely a like super hectic day. There
Yeah.
was a lot of moving things around because like the shop as you see it now, it definitely didn't look like this. Like the studio we're in was actually Jim's office.
Yeah.
And then everything out where the machine in the shop was all their, I guess, overflow storage.
Yeah.
So, we had to move a bunch of racks. We had to move a bunch of product out of the way because now we have this monstrosity
Mhm.
of a machine that, like, showed up in about 55 different parts.
55.
That we had to try and put together. So,
Just an adult director set, basically.
yeah, yeah, 100%. Yeah, I mean, that's probably the best way to put it.
Yeah, we had it got so hot in there for the first month or two that we were doing it before they moved all the flannels and all that shit out of the building.
Yeah.
It would
Oh,
get
yeah.
so hot with the flashes in the oven.
Oh, you guys are just in a insulated room,
Yeah.
just holding all the heat in.
Sweat box in
Probably. When was this?
April.
Yeah.
Just when it's starting to get warm. Yeah, that must have been a fun time.
Yeah,
Very.
it was a sweatshop,
Mm-hmm.
literally.
Quite literally a sweatshop.
What was it like seeing the machine put together for the first time, knowing what it represented as a company moving forward and a whole new horizon for you personally also, Casey?
Yeah, so I think for me, it was probably different for like Jim and Chris because, this is years and years and years in the making, and they're finally achieving, like, we're going into production for ourselves, boys,
Yeah.
But for me, like, it was such a whirlwind because, again, like, I'd been here for a week. I was supposed to close on my new house the day I got here, and then we get here and we find out, oh, we're pushing the closing 2 weeks. So, like, now we got a 26-foot U-Haul, and all of our stuff is in it. My wife is not happy.
Not happy.
Because this was my crazy idea, and so, we were homeless for, like, 2 weeks.
Damn.
So, yeah, so when I show up here, though, like, I will say it was kind of nice because, like, I was able to turn off that side and just be like, okay, we have a mission, we have a goal, and I'm watching the guys from Brown Manufacturing kind of put this thing together, leveling out the base and then putting on all the arms and stuff.
Yeah.
But it was kind of fun because there was little arguing between the guy setting things up and the electrician. So it was like, hurry up and wait because the electrician's got to put in all the electrical to plug in the machine, to plug in the flashes, to plug in the heater. Like,
Oh yeah.
so it was definitely a lot of chaos. There was a lot of things happening at once. And I basically was just standing there watching because I'm like, I don't even know what to do at this point.
Yeah. Just standing there scared to talk to them. One of them's gonna snap at you.
Pretty much. Well, yeah, that I've learned real fast.
Learned real
don't
fast.
mess with them while they're working. Like,
Yeah.
Just let them do their thing.
All right, what was the biggest challenge? Just getting it set up and ready to run.
Well, definitely the biggest challenge was the electrical. Because without that we couldn't do anything. So it took pretty much all day that first day to get the electrician wired up and all that. But once we got it fully together, The biggest challenge was like the entire process.
Yeah.
Because like I'd never done it, Jim and Chris had never done it, so like we gotta figure out like, okay, how do you burn a screen, right? So like we literally, it was starting from ground zero.
Oh yeah.
So the guys at Brown who came and stuff, they were great. They showed us how to use the exposure machine and do some screen coding. But that was the biggest challenge was just the whole thing, like
Yeah.
the whole process was way more in depth and involved than what I thought, right? Because like you said, like up there, you guys are just told, we're getting a machine and we're gonna have a lot of shirts. And
Yeah.
I was told, you just put the thing on the thing and you press a button and then the thing happens and we're done.
So long as 500 other variables are taken care
Yeah,
of
well,
first.
and then so like I'm watching all this and I'm like, oh man, I might be in over my head on this one. Like
Yeah.
this is a lot more than I originally anticipated. And Steve, like you said in the last episode, like, we didn't really make it out to be a big thing, but like when you got here, you're like, oh man, like this is a big operation, right? So like here I'm like watching screen printing videos at home before I move, and it's like one dude in a little area with like a manual, press, and he's kind of making shirts and stuff. And I get here and I find out, I'm like, oh, okay, so we're going like full like production mode with automation and all this other crazy stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, programming computers to run 12 arms and 10 squeegees and 2 flashes, and you didn't know what any of those words even meant yet.
No, not at all. Not at all. Like I'm good with machinery. I'm good with computers. I have an engineering brain, so like I can figure things out really quickly. I mean, the reason that Chris, like when Jim approached Chris and was like, "Hey, we should hire Casey. He's gonna move here from Raleigh." Like this whole crazy idea. What actually got me the job was something completely unrelated to screen printing, but it was actually fireworks and explosives.
Fireworks.
Yeah. So, like every year we go to our cousin's house, or I guess in this case Jim's brothers, and I always do a big fireworks display.
Yeah.
Started like 8 years ago. And these past couple of years, we got a little technologically advanced. Now we're running the whole display from an iPad and from a wireless ignition system. And so like
Damn.
Chris saw that and was like, well, if he can figure all that out and not kill himself and not blow everyone up, then he could probably run a screen printing machine.
That's fair enough.
Yeah. So, that's kind of how that all came to be.
Let's talk about the machine itself. What kind of press are we running and what makes it stand out from the other ones?
So we are running an Electra Print Stealth Series 10 head, 12 pallet, automatic, electronic screen printing press.
Yeah.
Which again was a little bit different than everything I saw online, because most people are using pneumatic presses and like M&R machines, different things like that, which I know Steve's more familiar with that. But yeah, Electra Print Stealth Series.
Why did we go with an electric press instead of a pneumatic press?
I mean, I don't have the exact answer, but I do know that essentially it's a cleaner setup, it's quieter, you don't have the compressor, there's fewer mechanical issues, or at least that's what they say.
That's what they say.
Yeah, it always sounds good on paper, but it's easier to maintain too. And
Okay.
so I think, it was maybe a little more cost effective too, like starting out, like maybe don't go for $100,000 M&R machine or something
Yeah.
crazy like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially in the startup phase that, with the bodies that Jim and Chris and you guys were here, you weren't even sure if that machine, I mean, obviously they were sold the machine and they were told that this is all you need to run it. But I'm sure in the back of their minds, there was something poking at them that says, there's a chance this doesn't work.
Mm-hmm.
And
Oh,
we
yeah.
have to go back to third-party sourcing printing, and we're going to have to sell this machine because we just can't get it working, or it's beyond our capabilities at that point. Now, this is going back almost, 8 months now?
Yeah.
Where, they weren't going to give up by any means, but I'm sure the price tag had a lot to do with breaking into a whole new area that no one had expertise or no one had any experience in. So, hey, if I'm going to go in, I'm not going to go all in right off the bat, maybe.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah. I mean, it's a calculated risk, right?
That's
And-
it. Yeah, that's exactly
and-
what
For sure.
the risk.
Yeah, and maybe not going, head first into the deep end. We
Yeah.
kind of went head first into the shallow end.
Yeah.
Yeah, and what my experience, the way it kind of works is that you wind up needing a second machine at some point, and then it just turns into an internal battle where who gets to work on the new machine and who has to work on the old rickety one every week.
Yep,
You know?
exactly.
So we're in line for that somewhere down in
yeah.
the future, right?
For sure.
Absolute. Well, and like we said, the vision for this is to kind of have really as big an operation as humanly possible. So I'm sure, it's been a struggle with this machine for the most part, but it's definitely not the last time because we're going to end up maybe with different machines, different products, things like that.
For
Each
sure.
one will have its own kind of learning curve.
Yeah. What kind of adjustments did you have to learn early on?
Oh my goodness. So micro adjustments on the machine aren't digital, right?
Yeah.
So like some of the machines I've seen, they have digital adjustments and micrometers and all kinds of things where this is 100% like a knob that you turn and it's all done by feel. Like I remember when I was talking that first day, talking to Matt from Brown, I'm asking him, like, how does this work? He's like, honestly, it's going to take you maybe a month or two before you'll even have this thing figured out.
Yeah.
And he said that's basically even guys coming in off of different printing presses and things like that because everything is done, whether it's squeegee pressure, whether it's the draw length, whether it's micro adjustments, it's all just turning knobs.
Yeah.
Right? So, like, it's 100% by feel because now I can look at it and be like, okay, if I turn this knob this much, the image is going to move this much.
Yeah.
Right? And so, like, it dials it in a whole lot faster. But that kind of adjustment, I mean, obviously, like, there's the outside the office adjustments, right? Like, I'm adjusting to a whole new lifestyle and trying to figure out how to get my kid in school and stuff like that. So there was a lot happening. It was it honestly wasn't as stressful as it probably should have been. I think.
It probably should have been.
Yeah, I think I was just one track mind. I was just very much focused on like we're gonna make this work.
Yeah.
Everything else will figure itself out. Like that's kind of my mantra is like let go and let God. You know what I mean? Like you just do what you're supposed to do, and hopefully everything else works itself out.
Yeah, for sure. What were some of the early mistakes you made while figuring all this out?
I made all the mistakes, I'm pretty sure.
Oh.
Yeah, I think I screwed up. Like, we started out, and I was just butchering shirts. Like, just butchering shirts, butchering screens. Like, I didn't break any screens, didn't really do any damage, but, like, in the process of trying to figure out all those adjustments and things like that, man, it was just, like, shirt after shirt after shirt. Thankfully, we had a lot of shirts that we were like, this is just going to be a test, and we're going to figure this out. We're not in full production yet. But
so you made a lot of testers and a lot of rags.
Yes. We had a ton of rags. So
everyone's garage was full of rags.
Yes, there was no shortage of rags. Now, the thing, too, is like, we got maybe some of the wrong inks.
Yeah.
Right? We got some of the wrong chemicals. Some of the stuff we had set up wasn't really done the right way. It was just either secondhand advice we got from other people, stuff we read online, like the mineral spirits tank, right? Like we were told that's a great idea. Come to find out, like it's not a bad idea.
It also burns your arm.
Well, I was gonna say the fumes are a little noxious. It's highly flammable.
Yeah.
Things like that could have been a
corrosive to plastic.
Yeah, so could have been a different situation. So that was one thing we learned pretty quick. Was like, okay, when Steve got here, he was like, don't do this,
Don't
right?
do this.
Like we're gonna go ahead. We'll get chemical degreasers that you can put down the drain that are a little more biodegradable. So we definitely
skin friendly.
Yeah,
skin friendly.
Yeah, exactly. So, cleaning screens too. Like we were doing it out back on a pallet with the power washer.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
It wasn't exactly a clean area to try and
Not at all.
clean stuff off. So
No.
And that's probably
100.
one thing that you learned about how clean the screening, reclaim, and emulsion process has to be.
Oh
Yeah. Oh God.
You want to be in a dark room. You need to be in a dust-free room, stuff like that, where you don't realize it's a big deal until you realize it's a big deal.
Absolutely. Yeah. You go ahead and coat the screen, and there's little pebbles and dots and things
So
all
annoying.
over it.
Sand from the wind blowing outside the parking lot.
Yeah.
Like and again, like it's comical to me because you hear basically a lot of people talk about screen printing like, oh, it's this easy thing. Like, even a lot of hobbyists, like if you're doing a couple of screens and like you're just kind of at your garage in your house or whatever, like sure, like the variables are a lot easier to control, but when you're walking into, I don't even know, 10,000 square feet or or something like that. I mean, it's a big enough space with like not 100% adequately set up to run the operation. Like yeah, there were quite a few mistakes that were made, but it was all a learning process. It was all stuff that we had to overcome. Um, I mean, they probably could have brought somebody. They definitely could have brought somebody in here who knew what they were doing, but I guarantee you they'd make the same mistakes.
For sure. Yeah.
Oh yeah, with a new machine, registration's going to be tough from the beginning. Exactly how each knob, moves and how it, how it reacts to each person adjusting stuff. But I think in the long run, unless they brought somebody in that was really experienced on this machine, you would have had the same growing pains. And it probably wouldn't have worked out the same way it is now with you here knowing what you have. Because you might have wanted to take a little bit more of a back seat on the machine and taking care of your inventory process and your your admin work, and you wouldn't be where you are now on the machine.
Exactly.
You might have had to take it apart once or twice still.
Yeah.
But you wouldn't have been on the machine every day learning those little intricacies, making the mistakes that you made. Like you said, sometimes it's better to, how many mistakes can I make? 100? Well, let me make 99 of them first so I can know what I did wrong.
Yeah.
And I can fix them and not do them again, hopefully.
Yeah,
For
like
sure.
Edison figured out, 99 million ways not to make a light bulb before he actually got it right. So
Yeah. How do the flashes in the oven fit into the process?
So that's, I think, more of a technical, little, not so much machine-based, but the flashes fit in because, after you print the ink, you have to dry it before you put another layer on it. You can do wet-on-wet ink printing, but, certain colors like red need to be flashed. If your colors are touching and you don't want them to blend together, obviously you need to flash, dry it out a little bit. The oven is going to cure the shirt, make sure that the image is going to stay. What do you think, Steve? I know you got more experience with that, probably.
Well, again, it's new words that aren't part of your lexicon until you're into apparel production. You don't know what a flash is, other than a camera.
Yeah.
Basically the same idea.
Yeah.
It's a hot, bright light that quickly dries some ink on your shirt so we can move on to the next portion of the process. But again, that's a word that you weren't even sure you knew what it meant going into it. Now you see the flash alone beyond the machine has 10 different settings on it that need to get adjusted based on what we're printing and what we're printing on that will affect the quality and
The clarity?
of the shirt. That's the word I was looking for. Clarity of the print. And you don't learn about shrinkage
Yep.
on a not like a turtle, but on a hoodie going on your machine. The flash gets too hot, the shirt shrinks a little bit, and nothing else lines up the rest of the way, and you can't figure out why until somebody tells you, hey, your flash is getting a little too hot, you're shrinking that blended hoodie that's on there. Again, something you would never think of unless you had somebody with that experience to tell you that.
Yeah.
You could spend the whole day thinking something's wrong with your machine or your screen or your squeegees, and you're still just shrinking shirts round and round and round and round. Like you said, making a box of rags and testers, basically.
Yeah. And that did happen. That 100% happened numerous times. I mean, even with experience, though, right? Like, we've had situations where we're trying to print sweatshirts, and, like, even though we know, okay, we got to maintain good temperatures, we got to make sure that it's low and slow, we're not just blasting this thing with heat. We've had shirts we couldn't even figure out. Like, they just, whatever reason, whether it was the material, where it came from, how it was made, whatever. Like, we've had situations where we've almost just had to throw our hands up and just be like, this isn't working, and we don't know why, and there are so many variables when you start trying to troubleshoot that process that, like, you can get lost in the weeds, for sure.
Yeah.
So, one thing I don't think Steve and I have done is ask Gavin, because Gavin started up at the shop, and then about 2 months in, after I'd already made all the rags and messed everything up,
rags.
I had a pretty good handle on things, but then Gavin came back. So Gavin, you have basically learned how to run the machine and stuff like that, and I think you've actually avoided some of the mistakes that I've made. But when you came in, like, what was your thought? What were you thinking?
That was a I was pretty excited. Pretty excited to come in and work on that thing. Anytime I see a large machine that looks cool, I'm very excited to work on it. That was very neat coming in and seeing that we had this new thing to, you know, do shit with for the company and all that.
Well, and also you don't have to stock shelves anymore.
Exactly. Yeah, I was getting
Not pulling orders, not
exactly.
stocking shelves.
Yeah, it's not bad pulling orders. It's just that's not what my brain was made to do.
No, and I mean, just to give the people an idea, how frustrating was it that first time you were trying to register
Oh my
a
god, first
shirt
time trying to
and
register
take
a shirt.
5 images and squeeze it and compress it into one cohesive image?
That is so confusing. It's like you move it one direction, and it's like, no, it needs to go. It actually needs to go this direction because it's off here. I know it looks like, even though it's off at the top, it looks like it needs to go to the left, but it doesn't need to go to the left. It actually needs to go in
Yeah,
on both sides. You know,
Yeah.
shit like that. It's like you got to really get a feel for what on the image needs to be adjusted to where, because it's not always as simple as just looking at the image and what direction it's off, and then like, okay, so it just needs to go left. It's, you know, there's a lot more to it and learning.
Or that first time one of your images is off and it wasn't a left-right move, it was
Exactly.
a circular
Yeah.
move. So you got to move one this way, one that way, and try to turn it from 12 o'clock to 1 o'clock. But
Yeah.
you can't go left or right. It's got to stay perfectly and kind of twist. Yeah, that was probably a fun one for you.
Oh yeah, with only left, right, in and out adjustments. I'm like, what the fuck?
yeah.
am
I
doing?
like Steve. Steve came in and was like, "No, you just gotta hit it with a hammer."
Just gotta hit it with a hammer.
I'm like, you know what? That seems like a much better solution.
For anyone that doesn't understand or has never worked on a press like this, the modifications and adjustments we can make are basically an etch-a-sketch.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's up, down, left, and right. But sometimes you need to make a circle. Have you ever made a circle on an etch-a-sketch? I know I haven't successfully.
Yeah.
But there are people out there that can do it.
Yes.
So that's basically what we're talking about
Yeah.
here.
Yes, and it gets even worse when there's already ink on the screen, because what we're talking about, there's no ink on the screen. You can see through the image to the image below that you printed on another shirt, and you're like, okay, now when you're doing it 100% blind.
Yeah, so that's it. So draw a circle on an etch-a-sketch blindfolded and go.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and have fun with that.
Yeah, that's how simple it is. Yeah.
So this is, I think, where this would be the fun part, because, you know, obviously we've had to troubleshoot a little bit on the machine, and by a little bit, I mean consistently, constantly, all the time. And I don't think it's a Brown manufacturing issue.
No.
And
This is
it's not
standard.
stealth print. It's,
Yeah.
you know, our shop maybe isn't 100% level, right? Which,
Yeah,
I mean,
no, like I said, we have our workhorse that I worked on. It was the same thing. Where once you set it, it's not a Ronco rotisserie oven. It's not set it and forget it.
that's right.
It's
Yeah.
set it,
Throwback.
start running shirts and double check that and double check that and double check that, all as you're running 500 shirts non-stop. If you know that's the goal.
Yeah.
But
For
it's
sure.
constantly doing a lap around the machine and checking the lineup, the registration, the ink flow, the flood flow. So if it was as easy as setting it once and printing 1,000 shirts, everyone's life would be a lot easier in this industry. But
course.
it's not even close to that.
No.
No, I mean, like, we have to level the pallets, you know, and then it has to be, the pallet itself in the up position has to be 19 and a half inches from the top of the arm.
Yeah.
Right? And when you work with a machine, every time the machine moves, something else moves, right?
Yeah.
Because, I mean, it's rotating in a circular motion, centrifugal force, you know, you're fighting against gravity. You know, the outriggers always need to be adjusted. I mean, there's just a lot of stuff that needs to be troubleshooted or troubleshot. Troubleshot. We'll go with that. There's a lot of things that need to be troubleshot before you can even really get the press running, which is why, you know, once a month, we basically have to go through, you know, Steve will check, make sure the pallets are level. We'll make sure that the distance is correct, because when that squeegee goes down, that is, I think, one difference between pneumatic and electric. It may be the pressure that you're able to achieve. I don't know, like I said, haven't worked on a pneumatic press, but, like, I know with electric, like, the amount of torque that you can put on something is innumerable.
Yeah.
You know, so, like, if it's not 19 and a half inches, if it's 19 inches, the pressure that you're setting is going to be exponentially more and end up either pushing the pallet down or something along those lines. You're not going to get a good clean print. Like, there's just a lot of things that we've had to troubleshoot. But even, like, I know this isn't machine related, but like ink viscosity,
Yeah.
right? Like we've had to troubleshoot ink viscosity. We've had to thin stuff out if it's too thick. Like it's a never-ending list. I'm sure we'll talk about that in depth more
For sure.
later episodes, but yeah.
What do we learn about how the machine actually behaves once it's running every day?
I mean, that part, like, once you get used to it, and again, this is an art to a certain extent
Yeah.
because, like I said, with the whole machine, it's all based on feel,
Mm.
right? So, like, you just kind of have to know the machine's running right. It makes this noise all the time, or it doesn't make that noise all the time,
Yeah.
or, things like that.
It really
But,
is like driving a car after a while.
yeah, or, a manual stick
Yeah.
shift, right?
Oh,
It's
yeah.
not an automatic, it's
Not
a
at
stick
all.
shift. But just the everyday running, it's consistent and it's solid when.
But working by sound is actually a big part that you don't think about that you do, because where your eyes are showing you what you're printing as you're in your repetitive motion, where a lot of times your eyes can kind of fade out because you're doing the same repetitive motion.
Yeah.
Your ears are listening and hearing the same flow of machinery that should, and you hear a clink or a clunk, or we hear something that we haven't heard before, and we've all done it before. We kind of look up like a
Yeah.
prairie dog and like, what was that?
Yep.
That's not normal. And it's always waiting for the second one to see if it happens again. Then it doesn't happen again, and then nothing seems wrong. All right, let's keep going. And then 10 minutes later, you hear it again. You're like, all right, stop.
Yep.
We got to find out
Pause.
where it's coming from,
Oh, yeah.
because we know we don't normally hear that. And if it keeps happening, something bad's going to happen eventually.
Yeah, well, and it could be, the screen popped, which we've had a couple of times, right?
Yeah.
So, like, with it being a 12 pallet machine, I mean, by the time you're standing in position waiting to take a shirt off that pallet, there's 11 other pallets before it. And if on head 6, which you can't directly see, if you hear a popping noise or something like that, if you don't go check, if you don't stop, by the time it gets around to you, you've messed up 6 shirts.
Yeah.
6 shirts are done because now they got ink all over them. The screen has leaked everywhere. There's no saving it, right? So like the margin for error on this machine is a little bit different than maybe smaller machines, because if it messes up head 1 or head 5, you're pretty much in a world of trouble. I mean, that happened. I messed up 12 shirts on one round one time. It happens.
What advice would you give to someone setting up their first automatic press?
Have somebody else do it, number 1, and have the mechanic who did it have their number on speed dial,
Yeah.
which is 100% what I have. I will give a shout out to Brown Manufacturing and Matt at Brown Manufacturing, because he has answered my call, answered my text, came down here. Every time we've asked him, everything I've asked of him, he's been able to provide us with information, answers. So definitely use your resources and find out what your resources are.
Yeah.
Have a level floor, number 1.
Oh my God. Have a
Number
level floor.
2, don't have an epoxy floor,
Don't.
because we have an epoxy floor, and so it is slick. And basically have textured concrete. That was the one thing we were told, because the outriggers in the machine won't move quite as much as a smooth surface.
Yeah. How have all those challenges changed how we work together?
Well, we definitely have to rely on each other. Everybody has a role. One person's running the machine, one person's pulling, the other person is folding shirts at the end of the conveyor for the oven. But also, in between all that, everybody's running around checking to make sure ink levels are good, making sure that everything is running the way it's supposed to. You definitely have to have quite a bit of teamwork when you're running an operation of this size.
Oh, yeah.
Like, everybody has to kind of know their role and execute.
Yeah, it's at least a 3-person job for sure.
Which was fun trying to do it with 2, but, we had enough of that.
Oh, yeah.
Now we just need about 3 more people who can run the machine consistently when we're not here. So, Steve, what do you see as being the next thing for us as we keep improving production from your experience and what you've seen?
Well, improving production is going to happen with knowing the machine better and being more consistent with the machine. And like we've seen now, that's going to allow us to go to the next level with the designs we want to print, the colors, the amount of colors. Now we know what the machine we have, we could confidently now print an 8-color T-shirt or an 8-color sweatshirt or something. Where in the past, you would have thought, you wouldn't even thought that something could get done here. Forget about get done efficiently.
Yeah.
Moving on to some better quality inks. I know we just recently brought in one-stroke inks.
Yep, great.
We've seen the specialty inks that they have available that we can play around with, to mess with, that are really fun, whether it's metallic or a puff ink that has a marshmallow puff kind of look to it that we just did last week that we all love.
Yep.
They came out great. But metallic, reflective, the color change inks that we saw that we want to mess around with, like the old
Solar
T-shirts.
sensitive.
Yeah, the old T-shirts that if you touch them with your hand, the shirt would change. There's inks we can mess with that.
Oh,
so
yeah.
we're gonna have a lot of fun with that kind of stuff. And going on to, like we said, just more detailed prints, more advanced prints, because we now have the availability and the confidence in the machine that we have. So other than numbers and speed production-wise, we're looking not to up our quality, but to up our wow factor that we want to put out to the world, really. I think if you guys agree with me, where I think our quality is top-notch to begin with.
Yeah,
but now we want to get into a little bit more of a wow, we've never seen something like that on a shirt, or just a print and a look that isn't the same as everything else that's in your closet, really.
Of course, yeah.
And that's the exciting thing for me. Like when I look at this, is I always like the new designs, right? Like maybe some people are like, I like the comfort of like, I know this print, we've done it a million times, I know how to set up the machine, and we're just going to run 1,000 of them. Like, that's not how I function. I'm very much like, what's next? Like, what's the next cool thing that we can do?
For sure,
what's the next big thing that we can do? And what is going to kind of take us to the next level? So I agree completely, and again, shout out to One Stroke Inks. Nothing against any of the other inks or companies that we've used, but for a little bit more money, I've just we found that the coverage is better. We don't have to lay down as much ink, and we get a much smoother print. So
you can just tell by looking at it that it's just high quality.
Yeah, I mean, and it's not that we've ever used anything that was low quality, but
No.
there again, that's variables in the process. Whether it's the shirts that we're printing on, the inks that we're printing with, like even going down to like the glue that we put on the pallets, all those things I think are going to help improve production and just give us an edge over maybe some of the competition.
Yeah.
But anyways, so what can listeners expect in the next episode? Well, in the next episode, we're going to talk about basically how to take a shirt or a design from the moment that we get it in our hands, we get the transparency. How does it go from that transparency to a finished product coming off of the oven and getting packaged into the box? So we're going to go through the whole process. We may break it up into segments depending on how, I guess, technical we get or how long it gets. So, but that's what we're going to discuss next time. So big thanks to NOC Embroidery and Demons Behind Me, though, for supporting the show, and to everyone out there figuring it out one print at a time. This is Off Content.